Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to episode 7 of Vagina Devil Magic, a podcast by me, Lisa Lee Curtis. As always, thank you for your input and your kudos and your emails and all that, whether it be in the comment sections on the platform where you're listening to this, or if you're yelling at me on Facebook. I'm glad you're enjoying my bullshit. And if you're not, well, fucking stop listening. That's weird. And pardon the absence last week. I was in the middle of my fun little border run I get to do until I'm a permanent resident. And I've mentioned that whole dance before. And I'm doing air quotes when I say dance, but you can't see that, yet I'm still doing it. Why do I do this? But yeah, when you move to a new country and you are not yet a resident, you get to do the dance, which usually pertains to the requirement that when you're not a legal resident of any given country, you must leave the country before a 90-day quote-unquote visa, formal or otherwise, is up. I mean, some countries require an actual visa. Costa Rica, where I live now, does not. It's the same in the States. It's the same in the States, in Canada, and Australia. Like, I remember when my in-laws used to, they would go down to Australia for long periods of time. Like, they were cool old hippie types who, in their retirement, they got a wild hair, bought a used sailboat, then learned how to pilot said sailboat. That was a process. And then spent several months at a time bombing around in that, mostly down in Mexico. But they took time off of that for a while because they wanted to go to Australia. So they did that. Bought an old camper van to live in, and since they were avid birders, they'd go bird watching, just ticking off birds off their bird bucket list. And when they go to leave, they'd sell the van and go on to their next destination. It was pretty genius, really. They did that, went from Australia to New Zealand and bought, had sold the van and then bought a new one in New Zealand, lived in that, ate, baked beans in the back of their camper van and menaced birds throughout New Zealand. And then the last week they were there, they sold the van and fucked off back to the United States. But a few years later, when they went back to Australia, because apparently they had not seen enough birds the first time, they stayed longer and had to bail to reset their tourist visa. And so they bailed off to see a friend in Thailand for like a week and then went back to bother the Australian birds until it was time to go home. So it's the same, like I said, in the U.S. People come in on their tourist visas and their visa waiver program or whatever, and then they have a set day where they have to leave. And if they stay longer than that set date, they are then an overstay, and that could really fuck with their ability to come back to the United States. And really, they can do the same thing. They can fuck off for a few and come back and start the clock over. Everybody does it. Most countries allow that. Of course, right now, no one in their right fucking mind is going to go to the States if they don't have to, especially if they don't look, American enough. Air quotes again. Please consider those are air quotes. People are just being disappeared by the current administration, even if they're here legally, even if they're fucking U.S. citizens. But hey, that's a whole nother story, isn't it? As an aside, with all of that, did you know that a huge chunk of people who are in the United States without legal status are visa overstays? Which means people who came here legally. They came here legally as tourists on paper, and then they just didn't go home. I get that. Kind of what I'm doing now, except for I'm, doing the whole dance. But yeah, there's somewhere around 40% of people who are in the United States illegally are people who came here legally and just kind of stayed. And which is why all the boogeymen at the border has always been a bunch of xenophobic nonsense. I mean, yes, obviously people are crossing the border, northern and southern, illegally, whatever. But it's always aggravated me, that delusional picture that's painted of these, evil brown people sneaking over to take away all those American jobs, the backbreaking jobs that, have you working outside all day, every day, picking berries and cabbage and all the rest of the produce that literally goes to rot when migrant workers are scooped up and taken away because people in the United States do not want those jobs. And that's been proven over and over and over again. But yeah, bad guy at the border crossings. Ooh, in the meantime, your racist uncle doesn't give two flying fucks about Ingrid, the hot blonde barista, or Jake, the Bavarian ski lift operator. I wonder why. So strange. Anywho, I got off on a tangent there. So, funny enough, I'm actually pretty much in the same position of every other undocumented person who is in a country as a visitor. I'm here legally because I'm doing the border run dance, which is sometimes taken care of by a trip to the States, when I need to go up there to see family. But who has money for all that all the time? I sure fucking don't. So sometimes it's a day trip, preferably 2 days, because depending on the border agent on the Panamanian border, they might get salty if it just looks like a border run. I mean, don't get me started on my arch enemy, Ricardo, who almost didn't let me leave Panama a few years ago. That was an experience. But even though they know what's up, so, they have to dance too. So I just stay 2 days. That helps. Fucking Ricardo. The guy I dealt with last week, though, he was a goddamn gem, and he gave zero fucks about the border dance. See, because just like at the U.S. border, at the Canadian border, any international border, if you run into someone who's having a bad fucking day or a bad fucking life, and he took the job solely to bully people, that shit happens everywhere. That happened with my buddy Ricardo down on the Panamanian border. There were guys I worked with at the border crossing in the United States, people going to Canada. Not every Canadian's nice, as it turns out. Or you get the person who took the job and isn't a raging piece of shit. I always hope, for that guy, but I plan for the other because, people are tricky. I could go up to Nicaragua, where they literally do not give a fuck. You can walk across the border and say, hey, I'm back. 30 seconds later, and I'm like, all right, welcome back. But that's like a 6 or 7 hour trip instead of a 2-hour drive. And during the rainy season down here, which it is now, it's no fucking joke. And so I'd prefer to be off the road as much as possible. And it's interesting. I didn't used to have this underlying fear that I would be turned away and, at the border coming down here to Costa Rica and sent back to the United States. I didn't have that worry when I first moved down here. But now, fuck, I feel very, very lucky to live where I live. And my life here, my life is here. My dogs are here. My husband's here. My life is here. My stuff is here. And due to the excess of United States-driven dumb buckery, I worry about my trip into the United States. Like, I didn't used to worry about that either. Even with this recent nightmare of an orange rapist being reelected, it didn't really occur to me that I might have a problem going back to the States. But then when I was headed up earlier this year, I had multiple people messaging me, what with this last election and things getting immediately worse. I had so many people messaging me asking if I was worried about being detained at the border for being me when I went back to the United States. And I'm like, well, I wasn't fucking worried, but I am now that you've planted that seed. Thanks a lot. Now I'm worried. So yeah, now I wonder occasionally if some of my less than loyal to the current wannabe Goblin King language that is, I worry that it's landed me on a watch list, and then I worry when I go to come home. It's weird. It's things you never really thought you had to worry about, but here we are. We're in a different reality. This last trip home from the States, and then when I had to turn around and do the border run, I had to do it as soon, like after, because I came home in May, but I had to do it again because I got a new passport, and that was the whole thing. And then I worried about the dance at the border, because what if I got Ricardo again, or worse? I was worried something was going to go wrong, and they were going to tell me I had to go back to the States. And as worried as all that makes me, I still know that it's not what people who are in the United States legally, either citizens who have upset the authoritarian regime currently in power, or students or workers who have their legal documentation and that's suddenly revoked, or people who were brought into the United States as kids, and the United States is the only home they've ever known, the only country they've ever known. They don't speak the language of their parents' birth country. But now they're being deported back to what is basically a foreign land to them with no support. I mean, they send like kids back to, just, can you imagine sending your 10-year-old or a 14-year-old just to another country where they don't speak the language? Yeah, sorry, no support system. Or being disappeared to some random third country prison, which is what we're doing now. That's great. That's a fun new perk. Or the alligator Alcatraz concentration camp that they've erected in Florida, where you can buy t-shirts and beer koozies and take pictures in front of the sign for it like they used to do in front of concentration camps in Germany. Fuck. I mean, they've made it clear that this can literally happen to anyone. anyone, regardless of status in the United States. And, so it's not a benign worry. The whole thing is horrifying. And, it's not like I'd have nowhere to go, like so many people who have started a life in the United States only to be rounded up like, livestock and sent away. I have places I could go. If I, got turned around and had to stay in the United States. I have friends who would open their home to me while I figured shit out. My adult kids are up there. I'd be heartbroken, but fine. I'd be ultimately fine, probably, unless I got sent to, El Salvador or, Alcatraz in the Everglades, whatever. It would be traumatic as fuck because my husband is down here and my dogs and my life is down here, but I'd fucking survive because I have a network, and I at least the little bit of money I do make with my writing sometimes. Hell, I can do that anywhere. But my home is here now. It's not there. This is where I live. And so again, traumatic, heartbreaking, not nearly as traumatic as it is for a lot of people who are being scooped up in the United States, regardless of their legal status. Do everything right, you're still fucked. I mean, it's just a joyous time. I'm just thankful that I'm on the other side of my border dance that I just did, which, prolonged me getting back to the podcast. But I don't have to worry about it for another 180 days. So we'll see. Oh, and I've had people ask why I'm not a legal resident of Costa Rica yet. And one of the reasons is the same as a lot of folks in a lot of countries, the same, reason a lot of people in the States who came there legally are doing the whole thing. The process costs money. And it's a few grand per person. And that's what drives me wild when people get on folks who have come to the States for a better life. And people are all, well, just get your citizenship. Like, it's just that easy. Okay, Kyle. I mean, they might want to, but it's not like, going to pick up and order Taco Bell costs real fucking money. And the whole process is a lot. There's a lot of paperwork, even for the people who do have money, who have an easier time. It's still not easy. I've known a couple people who've gone through the process. It's kind of bonkers. So my husband and I, we absolutely plan to get our residency if we're certain we're staying put. We don't know. My partner and I have considered other countries. So we're holding off on the legal residency part because, I don't have a big bag of cash laying around. So spending that money and then ending up fucking off to another country, that would suck. But I mean, we will very likely stay in Costa Rica. Like, we like it here, and we're still looking at other places as possibilities. So, who knows? If you had asked me even a year before we moved to Costa Rica in 2022, if we'd be leaving our home in Washington State to move to Central America, I would have said, yeah, right, maybe someday. So, life is funny. You just never know where it's going to take you. I mean, we just don't know, man. It's wild that I live in a little house in the middle of a jungle. We have our circle of friends up north. And when we told them that we were making this move, I mean, a few of them were blown away. A few not so much because, they knew how we were feeling about all kinds of things. But like one of my friends, very much a planner type. She's, I don't want to say rigid, but she's regimented. She's disciplined and regimented and very much a planner. She asked if we were going through a midlife crisis because this is so out of the realm of anything she would even consider doing. It's funny. And, again, like I said, I don't know what's next. Like, I was just looking at another place that's a little higher elevation because, again, I'm always too hot and higher elevation would be more ideal. And I was thinking, damn, this would be nice. I could just move here, maybe unplug a bit more and I don't know, start a goat farm. I mean, honestly, it wouldn't be the weirdest thing I've ever done. But it's all a moot point right now anyway, because the housing market down here is very dependent on the economy up north, just like a lot of places outside of the States. And everyone's in a bit of a panic for all of very obvious reasons. So nothing's moving down here. And I'm thankful that I like where I'm at. I love the people I'm around. It does not suck. I'm just too hot. And I have no room for goats. How am I going to, have a goat farm and make goat cheese anyway. So I spent a lot of time talking about that, and I'm going to just kind of switch gears, and I'm going to revisit a question that my friend Steve, a guy who follows my social media account, and I follow his, and he's an amazing fucking artist. Anyway, he had asked a while back about my pettiness Hall of Fame, or whatever it was he called it, and something else that absolutely belongs in that Hall of Fame popped in my head today. And it, like the one where I threw my giant ice cold Sprite out of a moving car on a swelteringly hot day rather than let my incessantly cheating boyfriend have a drink. I mean, I was making full eye contact with him while I did it too. As a total power move. Still not sorry about that one. But this other top petty moment also came while I was still in high school. The other one, I was in college, just barely, but this one was when I was in high school. And it was at the end of a weird kind of saga with a doppelganger that I had not met at that point. So yeah, like when I was in the 7th grade, I think it was, somewhere in junior high anyway. Some of my Astoria girlfriends and I started hanging out with these boys from Warrenton. You know, I don't even remember really why that started happening, other than I met them through my friend Paige. Her mom worked at a hotel that had a pool and we'd go swimming, and I don't remember exactly the origin story, but that's it. I met them through my friend Paige. But I'd be hanging out with them, and again, they went to the school in the town over. They're like, you really look like this girl Billy that we know. Oh, okay. You know, I didn't really know anyone else in Warrenton, and you know, and every once in a while we'd be hanging out. We'd go to the pool with Paige's mom, or you know, hang out at the lake or whatever. And I'd keep hearing about this Billy girl, and so this is like, I don't know, again, like 7th or 8th grade, and I keep hearing more about her. And as the years went on, I was hearing like from strangers sometimes going, you know who you look like? I'm like, yeah, let me guess, Billy Heaton, because this is before the Monica Lewinsky thing happened, because after that happened, when she was in the paper, suddenly I was Monica Lewinsky to everyone. Anyway, this is before that. So, you know, people come up, you know who you look like? Yeah, I know. I look like Billy. Great. I don't know Billy. Cool. So it got to the point where people were coming up to me and talking to me as if I was Billy. So apparently, as we both went through puberty, we really kind of morphed into the same person. And quite frankly, my dad, while still alive, was a huge whore. It's totally possible that this person is a sibling. She's a year older than me. But you know, I was just like, oh no, not Billy. Sorry, not Billy. Her grandmother I was downtown. This sweet lady comes up, oh, Billy, and starts talking to me and talking about, I'm like, I'm not Billy. And she looked hurt. I felt so bad, but I'm like, I'm Lisa. I'm not Billy. I guess I look a lot like her. And she just looked at me like, you know, oh, screw you, Billy. I'm like, whatever. So, you know, time goes on. This is happening. This is like over the course of like 3 or 4 years. And so I hear that she is actually working in Astoria at the Custard King. And I'm like, oh, weird. Maybe I'll stop by and see this alleged twin of mine. And I fully expect that I'm going to get there and see some girl, find out it's Billy, and she's going to look nothing like me, right? Because this has happened a few times in my life, and sometimes it's insulting. You know, be careful who you say people look like, because they might have their feelings hurt. So I strolled over to Custard King. I think it was sophomore year in high school, sophomore or junior. And I get up there, and there's a little bit of a line. It's just like this old timey like drive, not even a drive through, just like a little burger joint that's been around since the dawn of time. And I look, and there is a girl working in the back who looks just fucking like me. I mean, it was weird. She had the same hair. She had the same build. Everything. You know, the same bad 80s perm. And the only thing that was different is she wore her makeup different. And I noticed this was a big deal to me at the time. And I remember thinking, weird, that's like yellow. It's like, why does she have yellow? So, you know, I had made a quick judgment because I didn't like the color yellow, but I could not deny that this girl was my fucking doppelganger. And again, if my dad was still alive, I'd be going, hey, did you know? Anyway, so I'm like, okay. And it's like summer, and I wait my turn, and she comes up to take an order. I said, hi. And she kind of looks at me. It was like, she kind of had a startled look too, like, oh my God. And I said, hi, I know you don't know me. I don't know you, but is your name Billy? And she goes, yeah. I go, yeah, my name's Lisa, and I've been being told for years that I look just like you. So, and she just looks at me, this shitty look and goes, yeah, I fucking hate it. Anyway, can I get you something? And I'm like, what the fuck? It was like she had slapped me. I was not expecting like, a full open mouth kiss, but, clearly she knew we looked alike. And her response is, yeah, I know, and I fucking hate it. Can I take your order? And so I'm like, yeah, sure. I ordered like a cookies and cream ice cream on a waffle cone because that's my jam. And I was pissed. I was like, my feelings were hurt. And it was like, it's not a scenario that, I can really explain, but I'm like, Jesus Christ, here's this huge buildup from like, 7th grade on, and I meet this girl and she's a dick to me. So, one of the things to do for entertainment when you live in a small town like Astoria is to go to Seaside. Seaside, nice beach town, right on the ocean there. And the big thing to do is drive around in circles. You drive up, Broadway, but basically go cruising. We'd be driving the loop around the prom, what they called the prom. It was the promenade. You drive in circles and, heckle people as they went by you and, flirt with boys and flirt with girls or whatever. And so invariably as a teenage high school girl with boobs and who was, reasonably okay looking, people like really drunk, stupid guys would come up and, be obnoxious, and they go, hey, can I have your name? Okay, what's your name? Can I get your phone number? I'm like, hi, yeah. My name's Billy. My phone number is 861-5329. You can catch me on Tuesdays and Thursdays at Custard King in Astoria. I would love for you to come visit me. And was that a dick move? Yes, it was. I know this. And like now I almost feel a little bit bad about it. But at the time, I was pretty proud of myself, quite frankly. And I like to imagine that she's at work, minding her own business, being a bitch. I'm sorry, she just pissed me off. And some fucking guy comes up, hey, Billy, and she's like, looking just like the person he saw on Seaside, so he's not thinking anything's up. And she's like, what? I don't know you. I was not in Seaside. What are you talking about? How do you have my phone number? I wonder how many phone calls she got, because I actually got her number. Everybody's phone number was in the phone book at that point. So I can only imagine how many fucking weirdos called her, and she's like, yeah, I have no idea who the fuck you are. So anyway, yeah, petty, very petty, not a nice thing, but maybe she should have been a little nicer to me. She hurt my feelings, god damn it. And I'm sure there are other petty things, but petty sometimes comes with a little bit of passive aggression. And like I tell people these days, there is nothing passive about my aggression. I'm not going to come at you through the back door. And yes, you can make a dirty joke about that, but I'm not going to come at you from the back door. I'm not going to do something on the sly. If I'm going to look you in the eye, I'm going to look you in the eye and say what I have to say and all that. But at that point that, I was not as sure of myself then. And quite frankly, being snarky was the only thing I had in my arsenal. So I like to think I've evolved. We'll see. So that is, I think, where I'm going to wrap it up. I don't know if you've heard it in the background. My husband is in the kitchen. And I don't know, the last couple times I've gone to record things, it'll be all quiet and I'll start recording and suddenly he's like tearing the place down. But not too bad this time, but like earlier in this recording, I know you can hear him kind of yelling, but our neighbor kid had come over to wash our truck for a few bucks. He's saving up for a cell phone. And then he's out there rattling pots and pans because he's making a batch of lemon bars, cannabis lemon bars to be specific. They're really good. They taste just like regular lemon bars, but they will send you to outer space. He has them like every night before bed. Not every night, but they relax him. They calm him down. He goes to sleep. He has never slept better in his life. Like me, he was a government employee, and unlike me, he had never had anything that was, that would show up on a pee test. But we moved down here, and now we buy our weed from the same guy we buy our coffee from. And the guy also builds houses. He does a lot of things. The guy's super rad. Anyway, so he's making lemon bars, and being loud as fuck out there. I really wish I could eat those things. Here I'm the one who's kind of like the wild party girl for my previous life, and Daryl was always a Boy Scout, and then so I finally, try edibles down here with him because I never did edibles, and I go to fucking outer space. I don't enjoy them. I am on the ceiling. I am on another planet. They are not relaxing. He just zonks out anyway. So yeah, that's what's going on. And he just popped his head in here and asked me if I wanted a lemon drop martini because apparently he squeezed too many lemons. Which, by the way, as an aside, lemons are so hard to find down here. It's just one of those things you don't expect. Limes, yes. Limon mandarinas, yes. Lemons, it's like a fucking unicorn. So when you buy them, you fucking clean them out. It's very exciting. So we have lemons. And so yeah, I'm going to end this up. And I just realized I say, so yeah, a lot. Sorry. I'll work on that or I won't. Fuck it. Anyway, I'm going to have a lemon drop. So you have a great rest of the day and I'll see you next week.